In this section, we are going to understand what exactly is a trigger and why. The question why is very important. Why trigger? So, before we go into definition, syntax, etc., let's understand what is the use case, right? So, there are two use cases. I'll explain you. The first one is assume the scenario where every time in the Salesforce where account is created, you want to automatically update the last modified date. There's a custom field of account object, and you want to update it automatically, right? That's the one scenario. Now assume there's another scenario where you know uh, where before inserting a contact record, uh, you want to perform some validations, like you want to validate if the email address is right format. You don't want corrupted data in your database. So that sorry there are two such scenarios. So now how do you tackle it? Like, what are the options to tackle this kind of scenarios? Right? A usual developer developer instinct is to just go and write a code, right? What a big deal. Okay, you can write a code, in the, let's say you're doing it using Apex, so you can write a code, right? That's one way. Now, the problem here is you can see in the screen, like there could be multiple ways a data can go in a Salesforce DB. Just I'm putting the example here. That could be a lot more. So there could be a REST API, Salesforce provide to add a account. That could be Apex code, or that could be a Salesforce UI itself, provides the account form. And this list can keep growing. So one way is at every place developer can go and write a code. Okay, here you write it, here you write it, here you write it. It's the same code to with a validate email everywhere, right? And the thing is, you can now see, like how much duplication code can occur, and the maintenance nightmare. It's similar case for after trigger. You have to update, right? So again, you figure out, like, okay, now I'm inserting a record, now I should update it, and everywhere you have to keep imposing that rule. So that's technically not possible. So that's where the trigger comes in rescue. So what exactly are the triggers? The triggers, think of it like a small piece of code sitting before or after the database that that is monitoring every request and performing the action based on the code that is written inside a trigger. So if you see this one, right, this is pretty human, but if you say it's actually a code, before trigger code, in this case, it will say, like, okay, I'm getting an insert, update, delete request, and let's say I have a trigger for, contact object. So it will say, okay, let's validate the contact dot email. If it's not valid, then just reject this transaction. Don't allow to save it in DB. So this is a classic example of before trigger. In a similar sense, there's a after trigger. What that does is, it will also monitor, but it's other way. Like, okay, it will say, okay, now the data is insert in a DB. If you take my previous example, then it will say, okay, now I have to do some work, which is like updating the custom column with a date. So you can see now the benefit of having the trigger, right? You don't have to write a code everywhere. All you do is just write a code in the center, and now your system integrity is imposed, right? You don't have to worry about telling everyone, hey, you guys need to write a code here and there. You just created a trigger in the central place, and that's it. Your work is done. Thank you.